Serafina murmured. She removed the raven thorn note, placing it beside Isara's candle message. 2 sparks of hope. Night deepened. Cassandra retired to the chaise. Serafina sat on the windowsill, pendant warmed between her palms. Clouds drifted across the moon, silver edging black. She thought of Anthony, of Kalis prowling at the back of his mind, of Isara's calm certainty. She thought of Elise's note, of Valen's quiet courage, of Cassandra's unwavering loyalty. Threads wove around her heart, forming something like armor. Nira's presence fluttered, timid but there. Serafina whispered, "I'm still here. We're still here." The candle flame jumped, bending toward her. She smiled. Down in the guard station, Theon reviewed surveillance feeds. He paused on an image. Serafina at the window, head bowed over something glowing at her chest. Fury and fear mingled in his gut. Vargos hissed. "She hides secrets. Tear them out." Soon, Theon promised, fingers whitening on the console edge. Soon she will have no secrets left. Part 3. 2,110 words. Morning light crept over the city in dull sheets of pewter. Serafina woke from an uneasy doze on the chaise. She had fallen asleep there after hours at the window, pendant clutched in her palm. Cassandra, already dressed, bent to stir the fire. Blue smoke rose and thinned into nothing. "You should use the bed," Cassandra said in a hushed voice. "It's warmer." It felt wrong lying in silk while he roams the halls. Serafina stood and winced as bruised knees protested. "What time is it?" 6. "I wanted you up before Theon's trainers arrive." Cassandra pressed a mug of ginger tea into her hands. He scheduled etiquette drills, then voice lessons to improve clarity. "He doesn't know your throat's already clear enough to cut glass." Serafina managed a faint smile. "Then I'll whisper. Let him think he's the teacher." Steam warmed her face. She sipped, ginger heat chasing away last night's chill. Nyra stirred at the first swallow, a sleepy ripple of acknowledgement. "Good morning," Serafina murmured inside. She felt, not heard, a nuzzle of fur, a shy greeting. Cassandra glanced at her. "Did you say something?" "Just greeting the day." Serafina set the mug on the sill. She opened the locket at her throat. The faded photograph caught a shard of sunrise, flashing pale gold. The tiny hinge felt sturdier today, as if memory alone strengthened metal. A knock. 2 guards stepped in, escorting a severe-looking tutor in dove gray. "Lady Voss," the woman said crisply. "Language refinement. Alpha's orders." She gestured to a stack of narrow books. Modern etiquette, speech cadence charts, a script for formal diplomacy. Serafina lowered onto a sofa. She recited vowel sounds, practiced polite greetings, all while her mind drifted to the night ahead. Each time the tutor corrected her posture, she imagined Anthony's eyes, steady and intent, and found composure without effort. The bond tugged like a soft thread, reminding her she wasn't alone in this storm. Mid-morning, Theon strode in without warning. He listened to a few lines, then dismissed the tutor with a wave. "Enough lessons. I want to walk. Under guard. You need fresh air before meeting royalty." His gaze landed on Cassandra. "You carry her cloak." Outside, the fortress grounds glittered with frost. Theon guided Serafina along a gravel path between trimmed hedges. Guards trailed at a respectful distance. Air stabbed her lungs with cold clarity, but it also sharpened her awareness. Birds rustled in bare branches, their tiny heartbeats loud to her new senses. Theon's hand curled around her elbow. "You will stay silent tonight unless spoken to first." "Treaty audiences allow free exchange," Serafina replied. "The protocols—" "I write protocols," he cut in. "If I signal, you laugh. If I squeeze your hand, you praise the alliance. Understood?" She stared ahead at a statue of an ancient Alpha king, sword raised skyward. "Yes, Alpha." They rounded a corner to find Valen kneeling beside a greenhouse door, scanning plants with a handheld analyzer. He stood and bowed. "Morning, Alpha, Lady Voss." His gaze flicked to her knees beneath the cloak. "Your bandages need changing midday." Theon frowned. "She's fine." "Risk of infection isn't fine," Valen said mildly. "I'll return at 1300. He walked off toward the clinic wing, leaving air crisp with the scent of menthol. Theon resumed their stroll but kept silent. When they reached the courtyard arch, he stopped. "After tonight, the king will realize you belong to me. The gossip ends." He dipped his head, touching lips to the mark on her neck through fabric, an act more like branding than affection. Nyra recoiled. Seraphina swallowed bile. Back in the suite, Cassandra helped her change bandages. "You're shaking." "Not from fear," Seraphina said, voice hoarse. "From disgust." Cassandra smoothed ointment over raw skin. "Hold on. Evening will come." The day crawled. Voice drills, posture corrections, a half hour on the treadmill to keep her figure regal. Each order Theon barked, she obeyed. Each time he turned away, she whispered Nyra's name. The hush warmed, as if a presence inside her pressed against invisible bars, testing their strength. At 1600, Valen returned with Cassandra. He cleaned the bite wound, replaced her knee bandages, and handed her 2 small vials. "One is lavender oil for nerves," he said. "The other is blank, no drug. But if Theon tries to force a suppressant tonight, swap the syringes. The nozzle fits either vial." Seraphina met the doctor's eyes, gratitude swelling. "Why?" "Because medicine heals, it shouldn't chain." He packed his kit and left before emotion could crack his calm. Dusk bled red across the sky. Servants delivered an ivory gown trimmed in midnight blue velvet, the Lycan royal colors. Theon insisted she wear it for visual diplomacy. Cassandra laced the back, hands deft. The dress hugged Seraphina's figure but allowed movement. Sleeves flared at the wrists like petals. A silver comb anchored her hair, leaving the nape bare to disguise the patch. "You look like a queen," Cassandra whispered. "I feel like a fuse." Seraphina exhaled. "If I break tonight..." "You won't?" Cassandra slipped Izara's tiny pendant into the hidden pocket at the dress seam. "Take warmth with you." Guards escorted them through lamplit corridors to a moonlit antechamber near the embassy bridge. Royal sentries waited, armor black with silver pauldrons, helms etched with crescent moons. One stepped forward. "His Majesty asks that only Lady Voss enter." The guard's voice resonated through the visor, respectful but firm. Theon stiffened. "I remain." "The treaty allows 1 private interval," the guard replied. 10 minutes, then you may join." He tilted his head. "Refusal breaches royal protocol." Alaric murmured something to Theon, likely caution. Theon ground his teeth. 10 minutes. I wait outside." His fingers dug into Seraphina's elbow a final time, then released. The doors opened. She stepped into a small, octagonal chamber glazed with moonlight through a skylight of frosted glass. Candles glimmered in low niches. Anthony stood alone at the center, black suit fitted like second skin. Golden eyes, storm quiet. Time slowed. The door shut behind her, muffling guard steps. She forced herself forward until they stood an arm's length apart. "Thank you for meeting me," Anthony said, voice low, rough at the edges like stone rasped by wind. "I had no choice," she answered honestly. "I'm sorry for that." His gaze swept her face, lingering on the faint bruise near her temple. His nostrils flared, catching the scent of healing balm. Anger flickered behind gold irises, quickly leashed. Seraphina clasped her hands to hide their tremor. "We have..." Her throat closed on the word connection. A complication. Theon grows suspicious. "He should be more than suspicious," Anthony muttered. Kalis pressed at his mind. Smell the fear on her. Hunt the one who made it. Anthony inhaled, steadying. "Are you safe?" The question cracked something in her. She wanted to say yes, to keep Cassandra out of danger, to keep Valen's kindness secret. But truth glimmered in Anthony's gaze, an unspoken promise that lies would shatter in his hands. "I survive," she whispered. "Survival isn't safety." He took a half-step closer, careful. Heat radiated off him. The bond thrummed like a plucked string, higher, tighter, aching. She lifted her eyes. "If you act, war follows." "If I don't act, he will break you." His jaw worked. "I see fractures already. I'm stronger than he knows." As she said it, Naira stirred, pushing warmth to her fingertips. Candles around the room flickered higher, then settled. Anthony's eyes tracked the flames. "I keep feeling you," he confessed, voice raw. "Even miles away, Kayla's claws to reach you." "Naira." She caught the name before it escaped, but saw recognition flare in his eyes. "Your wolf," he breathed. "She's been silent since childhood." Her voice caught. "Now she's waking, and I don't know how to help her. Let her feel a world where pain isn't the only language." He lifted a hand, but didn't touch. "May I?" Breath trembling, she nodded. His fingers brushed her cheek, feather light. A shock of warmth flooded her, not fire, but sunlight through leaves. Kalis rumbled contentment. Nira pressed forward, nose to cold glass. Yearning. Her knees threatened to buckle under the tidal pull. Anthony steadied her with a hand at her elbow, distance evaporating. His heartbeat thundered against her own. For a breath they simply existed, bond humming between them. A lifeline too bright to stare at. Footsteps outside broke the spell. Anthony exhaled, stepping back. 10 minutes nearly gone. He reached into his coat, produced a slim envelope. Inside are emergency clauses and a contact beacon. If you feel unsafe, press the feather. Silver, palm size. We'll come. If he finds it, he won't. Anthony's gaze hardened. I know how he watches. We hid it from him already. She accepted the envelope, tucking it into the pocket with the pendant. Their fingers brushed. An accidental, electric spark. She wondered if he felt her tremor. She saw his. Kalis murmured, "Soon. Hold her." Naira answered, a single brush of fur, tentative but real. The door opened. Theon strode in, guards flanking. His eyes snapped to Anthony's hand hovering near Seraphina's. Jaw clenched, he forced a smile. "Your Majesty," he said, "I trust my Luna was helpful." "Most." Anthony's voice was smooth steel. "We shared philanthropic ideas. She's insightful." "She reflects my guidance," Theon replied, slipping an arm around her waist. His thumb pressed where bruise met bone. "Time to return." Seraphina kept her face serene, though pain flared. Anthony's gaze flicked to the grip, expression chilling like water over coals. "Take care," he said to Seraphina, meaning layered beneath courtesy. She dipped her head. "Thank you for your time." Theon steered her out, guards closing ranks. Anthony remained in the chamber, fists tight at his sides, pulse pounding. When the doors shut, Kalis roared within. "Chains on her. Gold for us. Break them." "We will," Anthony vowed. "Soon." Down the corridor, Theon guided Seraphina toward a private elevator. As soon as doors slid closed, he slammed the stop button. The lift jolted. "What did he give you?" His voice thrummed with barely checked fury. "Advice," she said, pulse racing. "And he touched you." Theon crowded her against mirrored wall. "Did you like it?" She met his eyes, channeling Naira's emerging strength. "I endured as I always do." He snarled and shoved her shoulder. Pain radiated. Before he could strike again, the lift shuddered and resumed, summoned by external override, the Royal Observer's safety protocol. Doors opened on the main hall where guards and staff bustled. Theon forced a veneer of calm, releasing her arm. "Return to your suite," he hissed. "We'll discuss obedience later." Seraphina walked away, head high, pendant and envelope layered over her heart. Cassandra waited by her door, eyes scanning bruises that bloomed fresh on her skin. "Did he hurt you?" Cassandra whispered once inside. "Not enough to matter." Serafina's voice shook only a little. She pressed the envelope into Cassandra's hands. "Hide this." Cassandra nodded, tucking it beneath a loose floorboard they'd discovered weeks ago. "What did the king say?" "That I deserve more than survival." Serafina touched the silver comb, pulse still humming with his warmth. "I almost believed him." Night seeped into corners. Guards rotated. Theon prowled his office, plotting ceremonies, oaths, punishments. In her suite, Serafina sat before the mirror. She placed Isara's wax message and Raventhorn's note side by side, then added Anthony's envelope, a small stack of rebellions. She lit a single candle. The flame leapt unusually high, steady as a spear. She lowered her gaze to her reflection. For the first time, the silver rim around her irises glowed unmistakably, a ring of moonlit steel. Nyra stirred, more distinct, a shape in shadow. "Are you there?" Serafina whispered aloud. Her breath shook the candle. Inside, a murmur, almost a voice but not yet formed. "Wait," Nyra seemed to say. "Soon." Night pressed in with the closeness of a sealed box. Hours after her meeting with Anthony, Serafina sat at the small table in her suite, tracing the carved words in candle wax. "The wolf that waits is not lost," while Cassandra dozed on the chaise. The pendant warmed steadily against her skin, steady as a heartbeat. She tried to read the charity ledgers in front of her, but numbers slid from focus. Every sense still vibrated with the echo of Anthony's touch. A knock too harsh for any attendant jolted her upright. Cassandra snapped awake. Before either could move, Theon entered with 2 guards at his back. Shadow bruised the planes of his face. Anger clung to him like burnt oil. "Leave us," he told the guards. They hesitated. Royal observer policy required line of sight after incidents, but Theon's eyes promised consequences. They withdrew to the hall, door closing with a soft click. Serafina rose slowly. "It's late." He stalked closer, eyes green fire. "Luna vows happen at dawn, but I can't wait." He held up a syringe. Valen brewed nerve-calming tonic. 1 dose, and you'll stop shaking under my hand. Cassandra moved between them. "Alpha Medical Administration requires a witness." "Get out," Theon snarled. Serafina stepped around Cassandra, voice calm. "I'll comply if you dismiss her without harm." Cassandra's gaze locked on hers. "Are you sure?" But Serafina gave the slightest nod. The attendant backed toward the door, tension coiled in every line of her body. When the latch clicked, Theon gripped Serafina's arm, hauling her toward the bed. Moonlight spilled across sheets, turning everything ghost pale. He pressed the syringe cap between his teeth, tossing it aside. "Hold still." She drew in a breath, Nyra stirring with sudden clarity. "Wait," the wolf whispered, a shape taking form behind her ribs. Theon's hand closed on her shoulder, tilting her head to bear the fated bite. She felt the needle touch skin. In one swift motion, taught by countless childhood punishments, she twisted, grabbing his wrist. The syringe flew clinking harmlessly across hardwood. His surprise flared into rage. "Ungrateful wretch," he backhanded her. Light burst behind her eyes. She tasted copper. She stumbled but didn't fall. Blood trickled from her lip, warm and salty. He reached again. This time she didn't step back. Something expanded inside her. Heat, resolve. A presence at her side, though she stood alone. "No," she said, voice low, resonant in a way that felt not entirely her own. The candle flame behind her surged tall, casting their shadows like towering beasts on the wall. Theon hesitated, thrown by the change in her tone. Vargos bristled inside him, snarling, "Go on, claim." He lunged, teeth bared, aiming for her throat. She pivoted. Theon's bite landed on the curve of her shoulder, tearing silk. Pain flared. But instead of the bond's familiar burn, Icy rejection flooded the wound. The mark fizzled, refusing to seal. Theon jerked back, lips stained red. "What is this?" he gasped. Seraphina pressed a hand to the bleeding punctures. A cool rush flowed outward, knitting flesh. She watched in numb awe as the blood stopped almost instantly. Nyra was there, closer than breath, pouring calm strength through every vein. Theon's eyes widened. Witchcraft. He struck her again, fist connecting with ribs still tender from bruises. Air fled her lungs, but she stayed upright, gripping the bedpost. Silk ripped further, shoulder bare, bite fading to nothing but pink skin. Footsteps pounded. The door burst open. Guards skidded in, followed by Valen, his coat half-buttoned, Cassandra right behind him. A royal observer blocked hallway traffic, one hand on a comm piece. Valen's eyes took in the scene. The syringe on the floor, blood on Theon's teeth, Seraphina's torn dress, and his face drained of color. "Alpha, stand down." "This is private," Theon snarled. "Not anymore, King," Valen said. "Royal protocol states any forced bonding attempt must be witnessed." Cassandra rushed to Seraphina's side, arm slipping around her waist. "You're bleeding." "Not anymore," Seraphina whispered. The wound had closed. Even Valen's gaze flicked to the patch of unbroken skin, astonished. Theon shook with fury. "She's bewitched, drug her." Valen bent to retrieve the syringe, thumbed the plunger. Clear liquid beaded at the tip. He met Seraphina's eyes. Silent question. She shook her head minutely. Valen straightened. "The tonic spoiled on impact, Alpha. I'll prepare a fresh vial tomorrow." Theon's nostrils flared. He turned to the royal observer. "This is domestic. Leave." The observer remained. "I've signaled the embassy. The Lycan king will be informed." Theon froze. For the first time, Seraphina saw fear cut through his rage. He spun on Valen. "Clean her up. Not a bruise visible by sunrise." He stormed out, guards scrambling after. As the door slammed, Seraphina sagged into Cassandra. Valen approached with a dermal patch. "Analgesic?" Later. Her voice trembled but steadied. "Please report everything." "Already writing," Valen said, stylus tapping glass. "Medical, legal, moral." Cassandra guided Seraphina to the bathroom, closing the door. Steam hissed as she drew warm water into a basin. Seraphina sat on the closed toilet lid, mind spinning. "You stopped him." Cassandra breathed, dabbing at dried blood near Seraphina's lip. "How?" "I didn't." Seraphina lifted her eyes, silver rims gleaming. "We did." Cassandra's hand stilled. "Nyra." A small, fierce smile tugged Seraphina's mouth. She said one word. "What?" "Fight." The moment she spoke it, warmth flooded her chest, expanding until tears blurred her vision. For the first time in years, the silence inside cracked open, and she felt herself, no, themselves, standing. Outside, a rumble shook the walls, engines revving at the front portico. Cassandra peeked through slatted blinds. Black embassy SUVs barreled down the driveway, Lycan crest gleaming in headlight glare. "Anthony," she whispered. Seraphina rose, wrapping the cloak around torn silk. "He comes because Theon's report will twist the truth." The suite door opened, Valen entered. Embassy envoy en route to the oubliette chamber. Theon's heading there to control narrative. Cassandra grabbed spare shoes, thrust them at Seraphina. "Go with Valen. I'll tail Theon." Seraphina nodded, adrenaline blazing. Valen led her through service corridors, smelling of starch and citrus. They emerged behind a tapestry near the fortress's great stair. Voices echoed ahead. Theon's harsh, Alaric's measured attempts at calm. Down the grand hall, double doors parted for Anthony. He strode inside, cloak flowing like wildfire's shadow. Guards scrambled to bow. His gaze locked on Seraphina the instant she stepped from hiding. Fury and relief mingled on his face. He closed the distance in 4 long strides. What did he do? She met those gold eyes without flinching. Nothing that will last. Anthony's chest rose, anger leashed tight. Kalis pressed forward. Ours stands. Valen cleared his throat. Medical report ready, Your Majesty. He handed over a tablet. Anthony scanned the data. Attempted forced bond, bite rejection, healed trauma, jaw ticking. He raised his head. Alpha Theon, explain. Theon spread his hands. A misunderstanding. She stumbled. I steadied. Your teeth steadied her? Anthony's voice held frost. Royal law forbids coercion. You violated it. Guards shifted, tension electric. Alaric stepped in. With respect, perhaps private mediation. No mediation, Anthony said. I invoke sanctuary review. Until the council rules, the Luna resides under royal protection. Gasps rippled, Theon's eyes blazed. You can't. Watch me. Anthony turned to Seraphina. Do you accept sanctuary? She hesitated only a heartbeat, then nodded. Yes. Kalis roared approval. Nyra pushed forward, embers catching. Seraphina felt the bond tighten like a safety line thrown across a chasm. Royal guards formed around her. Cassandra broke through the crowd, breathless. I'm her aide. Then come, Anthony said. He offered his arm to Seraphina, not a claim, but an escort. She took it, trembling with adrenaline. When his hand closed over hers, calm settled like snowfall. They moved toward the doors. Theon lunged. If she crosses that threshold, war... Anthony pivoted, eyes glowing molten. Choose your next action carefully. The moon witnesses. Vargo snarled inside Theon, thirsting for challenge, but Alaric gripped his alpha's arm, whispering. After a beat, Theon stepped back. Seraphina walked beside Anthony through storm-lit halls, every step a thunderclap in her blood. Outside, cold air slapped her face, waking every nerve. Convoy doors opened. She climbed in, Cassandra at her side, Valen following. As the SUV pulled away, fortress lights receded like a nightmare at sunrise. Seraphina pressed her forehead to the cool window. Nyra curled inside her, no longer shadows but ember glow, whispering wordless solace. Anthony's voice came softly from the opposite seat. We'll take you somewhere safe. Safe. She tasted the word, unfamiliar, yet sweet. She turned to look at him. Thank you. He inclined his head, silence filled with unspoken vows. Outside, the horizon blushed with the first hint of dawn. Seraphina closed her eyes. In the hush, Nyra spoke again. One word, strong as steel, warm as rising light. Fight. Seraphina's lips curved. Yes, she breathed. We fight. Dawn poured over the mountain range like liquid gold when the convoy crested the final ridge. Seraphina leaned toward the window, forehead nearly touching glass, as the Lycan palace revealed itself. Terraced stone walls clinging to a cliffside, spires carved from pale granite, banners snapping in alpine wind. Behind it rose peaks dusted in snow, their jagged crowns sliced clean against a sky so blue it looked newborn. Cold air seeped through the cracked window vent, carrying pine and something purer. Freedom, Nyra whispered inside her, the word rippling across Seraphina's bones like warm water over ice. The SUV slowed, tires crunching on gravel. Cassandra sat opposite, eyes bright with fatigue and cautious hope. She reached out, squeezing Seraphina's gloved fingers. We made it, she murmured, voice raw after a sleepless journey. No walls, no watchers with collars, just sky. Seraphina swallowed against a lump in her throat. Sky looks bigger than I remember. She shifted, fabric rustling, a simple wool dress in royal blue, chosen for comfort rather than display. Her shoulder still ached now and then where Theon's failed bite had pierced her, but the wound remained a faint patch of pink courtesy of Valen's careful salve and Nyra's surprising speed at knitting flesh. Beneath the dress, the pendant Isara had given her rested over her heart, faintly warm. Outside, royal guards in black and silver lined the open courtyard. They didn't draw weapons, didn't glare. Instead, they bowed as the doors opened. Anthony stepped from the lead vehicle, cloak sweeping behind him, gold eyes scanning for threats. He paused when he saw her, and even from 3 car lengths away, she felt the shift in the air. Subtle, magnetic. Kalis rumbled a greeting deep in his chest. Naira answered with a soft, curious hum. Anthony didn't stride to her door, didn't scoop her into a dramatic embrace. He merely nodded to the guard at her side, granting silent permission. The gesture said everything. She would step out when ready, on her own feet. She inhaled the crisp morning, then opened the SUV door herself. Mountain air struck her lungs, pure, cold, electrifying. She stepped onto flagstones that radiated leftover warmth from days when the sun sat high over these heights. Her legs wobbled from hours of travel, yet held steady. Guards inclined heads in respect. A few offered gentle smiles, more welcoming than the stiff deference she'd known at Bloodthorn. Cassandra emerged behind her and drew the cloak around Seraphina's shoulders, fastening the clasp. Anthony approached at a measured pace, cloak fluttering against dark trousers. He offered no touch, only presence. "Welcome to Calum Peak," he said, voice low enough only she and Cassandra could hear. "You are under my roof, but more importantly, beyond his reach." Seraphina's breath formed a white cloud. "Thank you for bringing me here." "Thank you," Nira echoed inside, her tone shy but steady. Anthony's gaze flicked across Seraphina's expression, perhaps sensing the echo of that internal voice. His own wolf stirred, a warm pulse at the edge of her awareness, and Kalis spoke in a rumble only Anthony could hear. Yet Seraphina caught the sentiment, a wash of protective reassurance that spilled over the bond like sun spilling through leaves. Anthony gestured toward the main entrance, carved doors banded with silver moons. "Isara has arranged rooms for you both in the East Wing. No obligations today. Rest. Explore if you wish. Guards will escort you only if you ask." Seraphina lifted her chin, scanning ramparts and balconies. She saw archers, but their stances were relaxed, bows unstrung. The quiet clicked inside her mind. No hidden desperation, no sense of being prey. She felt Naira test the air, sniffing silent scents, pine resin, melting snow, wildflowers unseen. Cassandra cleared her throat lightly. "I'm grateful as well, Your Majesty. We'll take that rest." Her fingers tightened around a leather folio that contained letters of testimony and council signatures, insurance if Theon attempted more manipulations. Anthony nodded. To Seraphina alone, he added, "If you need me, ask any guard for the North Library. I'll be there." Then he stepped aside, letting them choose their path. 2 female guards, one tall with silver-streaked hair, the other shorter with kind hazel eyes, waited by the doors. The taller introduced herself as Captain Thalia. "We'll escort you to your suite, Lady Seraphina, Lady Cassandra. After that, your time is yours." Lady. The word felt less like a chain than before, carrying respect, not requirement. Seraphina followed Captain Thalia through echoing halls. Sunstone tiles gleamed underfoot, and floor-to-ceiling windows framed vast drops into forested valleys. Where Bloodthorn's corridors had reeked of sterilized fear, Calum Peak smelled of cedar fires and beeswax polish. Cassandra whispered, "Your posture's different, you're not hugging your arms." Seraphina glanced down, her shoulders sat relaxed instead of hunched. "Feels like I finally grew to my bones." Naira purred agreement, brushing the thought with warmth. Seraphina nearly smiled aloud. They reached a suite of interlocking rooms, sitting chamber, bedroom with balcony, private bath, scented faintly of lavender. Sun flooded everything, turning woven tapestries into portraits of light. Cassandra exhaled an appreciative, "Oh," setting her folio on a low table. Captain Thalia bowed and retreated. As soon as the door closed, Seraphina crossed to the balcony. The balustrade overlooked a plunging gorge where a river glittered, threading through pines. Wind lifted her hair. Her lungs expanded fully for the first time she could remember. She closed her eyes and let her mind slip beyond her body, listening inward. Naira? The answer came not in word but sensation. Paws stretching on moss, a deep inhale of cold sky, a little bound of joy that made Serafina's lips curve. "We're safe," she whispered. The wolf's response, "Safe, yes. Healing now." Inside, Cassandra rummaged drawers, finding a pot of mountain honey and oat biscuits. She carried them to the balcony. "Eat." Valen said real food helps blood rebuild. Serafina accepted a biscuit, honey clinging to her finger. He was brave, standing to Theon. We were all brave. Cassandra bit into hers, crumbs dusting her scarf. But you did something I've never seen anyone do. You said no. Her eyes shimmered. I never got to say no. Serafina's chest tightened. She set her biscuit down and pulled Cassandra into a gentle embrace. You're free to say it now, to anyone. Starting with myself, Cassandra murmured against her shoulder. They drew apart, sharing a fragile laugh. A knock came, soft, respectful. Captain Thalia returned with a footman bearing trays, herbal teas, fruit, 2 sealed letters. From Shaman Isara, Thalia explained. She asks you read them after you rest. When they were alone again, Serafina broke the wax on the first envelope. Inside lay neat script, * rest. Tonight the moon will rise for you. Drink the blue vial before dusk. She looked up at Cassandra. Vial? The footman had left a small crystal bottle on the tray, water inside shimmering with faint lunar opalescence. Cassandra sniffed the cork. Smells like starlight, if that had a scent. She blinked. I need sleep. Serafina guided her friend to the bedroom's second bed. Cassandra kicked off shoes and slid beneath quilts, out in minutes. Serafina changed into soft linen sleepwear and curled in an armchair by the balcony doors. Exhaustion dropped like a heavy cloak. She drifted. Dreams came. Naira trotting through moonlit snow, ears perked, Kalis's distant golden silhouette on a ridge, Anthony's voice, I will wait. The dream fractured, and Serafina stood in a room of mirrors. Each pane showed her at different ages. Child with wrists bruised, teenager with hollow eyes, young woman kneeling. She reached to touch the glass. Mirrors dissolved into silver dust, revealing a doorway. Naira waited on the threshold, chains falling from her shoulders like broken vines. The wolf bowed her head, then stepped through, and Serafina followed. She woke near dusk to soft bells chiming. Lavender twilight-edged sky outside. Cassandra still slept, breathing even. Serafina reached for the vial, removing the cork. The elixir glowed faintly, reflecting the first evening star. Naira lifted inside her, urging. She drank. Coolness slid down her throat, then warmth blossomed in every limb, as if tiny lanterns ignited in her blood. A soft rap sounded. Isara entered, violet cloak whispering. Her smile was the mountain at dawn, serene, unstoppable. Rise when ready. Serafina stood feeling taller. What is happening? Just a walk beneath the moon. Isara's gaze flicked to Cassandra. Your friend rests. Guards will stay. Serafina followed Isara through hushed corridors, out onto a stone path winding into a garden. Lanterns hung among pines, casting gentle halos on snow-dusted grass. In a clearing, Anthony waited beside an ancient fountain where water shimmered like stars trapped in stone. He looked up and his breath caught. Serafina felt it through the bond, a warm jolt of awe mirrored by Naira's pleased rumble. Anthony bowed his head slightly. Good evening. Evening, she replied, stepping under the lantern glow. The elixir's warmth steadied nerves that once would have quaked. Isara said moonlight would help. It does, Isara said, settling on a bench. I'll watch from here. The rest is yours. Anthony offered his arm, eyes asking permission. Serafina took it, fingers curling against cool wool. They walked slow circles around the fountain, silence thick but comforting. Above, the moon climbed, round and gentle. After the third lap, Anthony spoke. I told myself I would not force a single step, yet each day my heart begs to run toward you. She looked up. And each day you wait anyway. I would wait a lifetime if it gave you peace. Kalis rumbled. A lifetime is short beside eternity with her. Naira brushed back, agreement tinged with curiosity. Serafina stopped beside a stone arch threaded with winter vines. She met Anthony's gaze. I used to think choice was a story told to weaker souls so they'd stop fighting. What do you think now? Choice is strength. She lifted his hand, turning it palm up. I'm afraid. But I'm also ready to live. And I'm done letting fear speak louder than my own voice. Anthony's throat bobbed. What do you choose? She laced their fingers. A future built on respect. And if respect allows love, then I choose love with you. Heat surged through the bond, silver threads weaving tighter. Kalis exhaled a soft growl of relief. Naira pressed joy to Serafina's heart, wordless, but clear. Anthony's voice roughened. Tell me what you need. Only patience, she whispered. But may I touch your heart first? She placed his hand over her chest, above the pendant. He mirrored the gesture, setting her palm against his steady heartbeat. The bond flared, warm, bright, engulfing yet gentle. Time slowed, lanterns dimmed, replaced by a silvery glow rising from their clasped hands. She heard Nira's voice, strong and sure. Home. Kalis answered. Mine and ours. Serafina drew a trembling breath. I want this, she said. Anthony's eyes closed, lashes trembling. Then it will be done. He tilted her chin, pressing a kiss to her forehead, then her cheek, lingering to let her pull away if she chose. She didn't. When his lips finally brushed hers, Naira howled, a note of pure, soaring triumph echoed by Kalis's deep thunder. Serafina opened under the kiss like night-blooming jasmine, inhaling trust. They parted, breaths mingling. Anthony's canines elongated just slightly, but he waited. She bared the curve of her neck. Moonlight painted the skin silver. His voice shook. Last chance to stop me. No stopping, she said, heart steady and wild at once. Only beginning. He bit gently, pain sharp, then sweet. The mark burned, not with rejection, but welcome. Heat spiraling through her veins, merging with the lantern light warmth already ignited. She gasped. He sealed the wound with a soft lick. Silver light pulsed around them, bathing fountain, vines, snow. Naira howled in her mind, a sound so glorious Serafina's knees buckled. Anthony held her, forehead pressed to hers. Kalis's joyous roar filled the bond. Energy swirled, then settled. No ropes, no chains, just connection. They stood in silence until lanterns glowed ordinary again and the moon shone gently overhead. Izara approached, eyes bright. It is done properly, she murmured. Serafina felt the truth. No fear coiled in her chest, only a steady flame of belonging. She touched the fresh mark. It radiated warmth. Anthony's thumb wiped a tear from her cheek. Welcome home. She smiled, voice steady. Thank you for waiting. The next morning, mountain sunlight streamed across Serafina's sheets, coaxing her awake with gentle warmth instead of fear's sharp prod. Cassandra had already opened the balcony doors. Crisp air carried scents of pine and fresh bread from the kitchens below. Serafina stretched, a pleasant ache spreading through muscles that felt newly hers. Naira stirred, content, then curled at the edge of her consciousness like a cat basking. A tap on the door preceded Captain Thalia's entry. Message from the Royal Council, my lady, she said, offering a gilded scroll. They convene at midday to review Bloodthorn's accusations. Cassandra appeared behind Thalia, holding a tray of porridge berries and steaming tea. Rumor says Theon's petition reads like a child's tantrum, she murmured once Thalia left. Seraphina unfurled the scroll. Council summons requested her testimony and any evidence regarding Bloodthorn's treatment. Her pulse stayed calm. The new bond lent a steady courage. "He will lose," she said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Naira agreed, tail thumping, "Good riddance." Anthony joined them an hour later, eyes still soft with last night's memory. He greeted Cassandra with a nod. "Council chambers are open. Will you testify?" Seraphina glanced at Cassandra. "Will you stand with me?" "Until the world ends," Cassandra answered, chin lifting. Anthony extended his arm to Seraphina. Their wolves brushed minds the instant her fingers touched his sleeve, reassuring warmth flowing both ways. Together they walked to the council hall, a circular chamber of white stone, sunlight pouring through an oculus overhead. Elder Lycans filled tiered benches, murmurs hushed at their entrance. Isara waited near a crystal podium, Valen beside her holding a slim projector. Papers, recordings, and sworn statements were ready. Seraphina took her place, heart steady. The first elder, hair silver as first frost, spoke. "Lady Seraphina, you were bonded by ceremony to Alpha Theon but claim coercion. Do you stand by this?" "I do," she said, voice resonating clear. There was no consent for the mate bond. His attempt failed, as wounds show. She indicated the faint mark, edges already a healthy pink. Valen projected medical scans, images of rejected bites, bruised tissue, suppressed healing signatures. Gasps rippled through seats. Another elder asked, "Did Bloodthorn leadership witness or condone abuse?" Cassandra stepped forward. "I served Lady Seraphina for 2 years. I witnessed kneelings, beatings, forced starvation periods. Guards threatened staff into silence. These letters," she held the folio, "contain signed affirmations from 8 witnesses. Elders examined holographic signatures. Murmurs hardened into outrage. A final piece of evidence, a covert recording Valen had triggered during the syringe incident, played. Theon's voice snarled, "Drug her. I'll make her submit." The hall fell into shocked silence broken only by Anthony's low growl, echoed faintly by Kalis. The Elder Council conferred in whispers, then spoke. "Theon of Bloodthorn violated bond law and sovereign treaty. His authority is suspended pending formal arrest. The Luna is freed." Relief unfurled like a banner in Seraphina's chest. Naira howled approval, a mental echo filling her ears with triumph. Anthony squeezed her fingers, pride and protectiveness radiating through the bond. But freedom rarely ended cleanly. That evening thunder rolled beyond clear skies. Distant, rhythmic, wrong. A junior guard sprinted into the strategy room where Anthony and Seraphina consulted maps. "Bloodthorn forces approach the southern border," she panted. "Unmarked transports. Theon leads." "Show me," Anthony said, following her to the watch balcony. Far below, a serpentine road clung to the mountainside. Dust plumes traced 3 armored trucks flanked by motorbikes. At their head rode Theon, cloak snapping, eyes feral. Kalis bristled inside Anthony. He comes spiteful, not brave. Seraphina's breath caught. Naira's hackles lifted. "He's risking war." Anthony turned to Captain Thalia. "Deploy guard line at boundary. Non-lethal stance unless attacked. Cassandra, secure civilians." He met Seraphina's gaze. "You can watch from the parapet or remain inside." "I face him," she said, voice calm. "Naira says fear gives him power." Minutes later they rode out on horseback. Anthony in light armor, Seraphina in a fur-lined cloak, Captain Thalia and a dozen guards at their backs. Wind cut icy along the ridge. Theon's convoy halted at the stone marker that divided royal lands from free territory. He dismounted, arrogance radiating even through exhaustion. "Return my Luna," he shouted across the divide. You stole her. Bloodthorn demands restitution. Anthony reined in his stallion. The council removed your claim. Stand down. Theon barked a laugh. Council of sycophants, I take back what's mine. Seraphina nudged her mare forward until she stood level with Anthony. I was never yours, she said, projecting across the cold air. Her voice carried steady, filled with something bright and unbreakable. Theon's eyes widened as if hearing her speak in such strength startled him more than the assembled guards. You've bewitched her, he accused Anthony. Seraphina lifted her chin. No spell, choice. She opened the cloak, revealing the healed bite from Anthony, sparkling faintly with silver threads. Nyra flared for emphasis. I chose a bond born of respect. Vargos remained silent inside Theon. She sensed the vacuum and realized even his wolf had turned away. Theon's shoulders sagged, fury curdling into emptiness. He drew a short blade, but his hand shook. Anthony's command rang out. Disarm and surrender. No harm will follow if you obey. Theon's gaze skittered across armed guards, archers on ridge ledges, and finally Seraphina, standing tall, eyes glowing with inner silver. Something inside him cracked. The blade clattered, rolling off the cliff's edge into mist. Guards moved in, binding his wrists. Theon offered no resistance, gaze hollow. As they led him to a transport, Seraphina felt no triumph, only a muted sadness for what power, twisted, could destroy. Back at the palace gates, Valen awaited with shackles reinforced for wolves, unused now that Vargos lay silent. He escorted Theon inside. Anthony dismounted, then reached to help Seraphina down. Their hands met, pulses synchronized. Captain Thalia approached. He'll await tribunal. My guards report his wolf won't speak. Sometimes silence is a mercy, Seraphina murmured, Nyra giving a soft, sympathetic whine. Anthony guided her toward warmth, but she paused at the threshold, turning to Cassandra jogging up the steps. Cassandra flashed a relieved grin. No arrows fired. I call that success. Success and closure, Seraphina agreed. That night the palace celebrated quietly. No banners, no fanfare, just warmth and music drifting through corridors as staff exhaled collective relief. Seraphina sat by the hearth in Anthony's private library, quilt around her shoulders. He crouched to add another log, sparks swirling. She watched firelight paint his profile. You protected me, but more. You waited. I won't forget. Anthony straightened, eyes reflecting flame. Waiting wasn't sacrifice. It was hope. Nyra padded forward inside, nudging Kailas in greeting. Seraphina felt the answering brush of his wolf, rough affection tempered by respect. They spoke long into night, of reforms for Omegas, joint charity routes, gardens Cassandra might oversee. Plans felt like promises rather than cages. At midnight, as logs settled to embers, Isara appeared in the doorway. Moon reaches zenith, she said. Time for vows of your choosing. Seraphina rose, cloak slipping to reveal a simple white dress. Anthony offered his hand. She accepted. They followed Isara down quiet halls into the heart of the mountain, a circular chamber carved of crystalline stone. Water trickled along grooves, catching moonlight pouring from an oculus above and scattering it into dancing shards. Isara waited at the rim, staff grounded. The chamber listens. Speak truth only. Anthony turned to Seraphina. Your voice first. She breathed the cool air. Nyra inhaled with her. I stand free. Not because chains were broken for me, but because I broke them with help. I choose you, not to shield me from darkness, but to stand with me in light. Anthony's eyes shone wet. I stand free as well. I choose you, because your strength teaches mine. Kailas hummed approval. Nyra pressed close, tail twirling, and Seraphina stepped nearer. No grand ceremony, just this. She offered her wrist. May I mark you too? Equal. Anthony's breath caught. Yes. She extended claws newly learned. small, silver, and nicked his skin gently. Blood welled, bright against pale. She leaned, seating her own bite softly at the juncture of shoulder and neck. Energy rippled, cool and hot, starlight swirling through veins. Anthony groaned, not in pain, but in wonder. Kalis loosed a deep, joyous roar. Naira answered with a ringing howl. The chamber thrummed, crystalline walls reflecting their merged aura. Silver, gold, twilight blue. Light settled, heartbeats calmed. Anthony cradled Serafina's face, foreheads resting together. She felt complete. Not perfect, but whole. Cracks filled with gold like repaired pottery. They emerged into sunrise. Snow on peaks blushed rose gold. Staff and dignitaries gathered quietly in the courtyard, sensing shift without needing explanation. Cassandra waited near a fountain, eyes shining. Valen stood to her right. Captain Thalia to her left. Anthony addressed the small crowd. Today begins a new age, one built on consent, strength, and shared voice. Serafina stepped forward, Naira steady inside. I was once taught to fear my own words. Now I use them to build. Applause rose. Soft, respectful. Wolves in distant forests howled, echoes rolling across valleys, each note a stone laid in the foundation of something better. Serafina found that days in the mountains passed like pages in a beloved book, slow enough to savor, quick enough to leave her wanting to read on. The morning after the courtyard gathering, Anthony invited her to tour Calum Peak's hidden places, vaulted libraries carved straight into bedrock, glass-roofed conservatories where winter roses bloomed crimson against snow, a training ring that overlooked a cliff so sheer it felt like the edge of the world. Everywhere they walked, people bowed with genuine respect, yet no one groveled or flinched as she had grown used to in Bloodthorn. She tried to return every nod, every greeting, letting the warmth seep into cracks she hadn't realized were still there. Cassandra accompanied them at first, noting schedules on a slim tablet, while sneaking appreciative glances at statuary and hanging gardens. Valen joined occasionally, discussing plans for a new medical wing where injured Omegas from any pack could seek care without permission from abusive alphas. Serafina listened, offered suggestions, and caught herself smiling more than she spoke. Each time she did, Anthony's answering smile lit his whole face, as if her happiness fed something inside him. Naira and Kalis traded silent nudges of contentment in the background, like companions sharing a quiet joke. 4 days after Theon's arrest, the Royal Council delivered a verdict: permanent removal of his title, exile to a remote border outpost, and appointment of an interim alpha drawn from among Riverfang and Raventhorn elders to stabilize Bloodthorn's territory. News arrived while Serafina, Cassandra, and Isara sat in a sun-drenched atrium, weaving plans for a cross-pack Luna symposium. Isara broke the seal on the council's missive, read, and looked up, her smile subtle but unmistakably pleased. It is finished, she said. No appeal, no audience. Theon will live, but he will rule nothing greater than his own regrets. Serafina exhaled a breath she hadn't noticed holding. Naira released a soft rumble of relief. Cassandra pumped a quiet fist in the air and muttered, "About time." That evening, as dusk tilted the snowcaps into lilac shadows, Anthony found Serafina in the palace greenhouse, crouched beside a row of young camellia shrubs. Earth stained her fingertips. She had insisted on helping the gardeners transplant seedlings despite the chill. She stood as he approached, brushing soil from her palms. "Planting root?" he teased gently. "Feels right," she said. "These will bloom when winter ends. Something to look forward to." He regarded her for a long moment, then offered a folded parchment. "Council requests you attend tomorrow's open assembly to formalize next steps for Bloodthorn and present the new sanctuary accords. Only if you wish." She took the parchment. "I'll go. Standing before them can be intense." She met his eyes, silver rims gleaming in the lamp-lit glass house. "I've stood before worse." Kalis hummed approval, Naira echoed, confidence surging. Anthony reached to tuck a stray lock of hair behind her ear, marveling at her composure. She caught his hand, turning it over. A thin scar crossed his wrist. Old training mishap, he'd once explained. She pressed her lips to it, unexpected tenderness. His breath hitched. Kalis thumped his tail inside. Later, she and Cassandra spread scrolls across their suite's table, drafting proposals, rotating observer teams to audit border pacts, scholarship funds for Omega education, traveling mediators for interpact disputes. They argued amiably over funding ratios and scheduling until midnight, then collapsed into laughter when Cassandra's stylus rolled off the table for the 5th time. "You realize," Cassandra said, cheeks flushed with wine and fatigue, "we're redesigning Wolf Society between cups of chamomile." Serafina leaned back, stretching sore shoulders. Someone has to. And who better than a once silent Luna and her dangerously organized attendant? Cassandra grinned. "Imagine telling our younger selves this." "My younger self wouldn't believe the sky could look this wide," Serafina said softly. Naira interjected, "Play now, think later." Serafina snorted, surprising Cassandra. "What?" "My wolf thinks we should sleep." She rose, squeezing Cassandra's shoulder. "Tomorrow we conquer councils." Sleep found her quickly, dreamless, peaceful. She woke before dawn to a snow-bright hush. Pulling on a wool cloak, she tiptoed to the balcony and breathed icy air. Somewhere in the forest below, real wolves sang to the fading stars. Naira lifted her head inside, took a deep lungful, then slid closer than ever, as though trying to look through her eyes. Serafina's chest warmed. "We're really alive," she whispered. Naira's answer was a simple yes, layered with indescribable joy. Later, after hot cider and fresh bread, she dressed for the assembly in a gown of slate gray edged with silver embroidery, elegant but understated, echoing Calam Peak's winter cliffs. Cassandra pinned her hair half up, leaving loose waves to soften the severity. At the doorway, Anthony waited in formal charcoal attire, silver torque at his throat like a crescent moon. They descended grand stairs side by side, guards flanking a respectful distance. Valen and Isara joined near the council hall. Inside, tiers were filled not only by elders, but by envoys from neighboring pacts. Omegas granted seats for the first time, and human diplomats curious about shifting politics. Murmurs stilled when Anthony and Serafina stepped onto the central dais. Anthony spoke first, acknowledging council authority, recounting Theon's violations, praising those who testified. Then he gestured to Serafina. Thousands of eyes turned. She breathed in, Naira steadying her heartbeat. "I stand before you free. I was once an Omega daughter traded like coin, expected to kneel in permanent silence. Many here know that silence. You wear it in hidden scars and quiet glances. Today, I speak not to condemn the past, but to shape the future." She outlined the sanctuary accords, immediate creation of neutral havens for abused wolves, rotating audits, medical safe houses. She introduced Cassandra as liaison for civilian concerns, and Valen as head of trauma health. Each point sparked murmurs, some skeptical, many hopeful. An elder raised a hand. "These measures require resources. How do you fund them?" Serafina leveled her gaze, voice calm. "Through redirected tithes previously lining corrupt coffers, voluntary contributions from allied pacts, and the Lycan treasury surplus. Healing our people is profitable in ways greed can't measure." A ripple of laughter, approving this time. Anthony stepped forward. "Calam Peak endorses the accords fully." After further questions, the council called for a vote. White stones placed in a crystalline basin for approval, black for denial. Serafina counted stones drop by drop, pulse drumming. When the basin glowed white under hidden lights, cheers erupted. Cassandra squeezed her hand until bones creaked. Outside, snowflakes drifted lazy spirals from a pale sky as council members spilled into courtyards buzzing with new purpose. Seraphina stood near a frozen fountain, breath fogging, while elders congratulated her. Some called her Lady, others, Luna. One young Omega approached shyly, eyes wide. "You said silence breaks," the girl whispered. "How?" Seraphina knelt so their eyes met. "Not all at once, sometimes it cracks like ice until water can speak, but every voice matters. Even whispers move mountains eventually." The girl smiled, small, determined, and ran to join her family. Cassandra exhaled, brushing a tear. "You did that." In the afternoon, Anthony escorted Seraphina to a secluded cliff ledge where a wooden platform overlooked endless pines. They carried hot chocolate and sat on a fur-lined bench. Below, wind stirred white caps on treetops like waves on a dark sea. Anthony spoke quietly. "When Kalis first sensed you, he called you sunrise before dawn. I didn't understand until today." He paused. "Thank you for stepping into light even when it burned." Seraphina rested her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for shielding me until I could lift my own shield." Kalis rumbled soft contentment. Naira nuzzled him, sparks of playful energy leaping between the wolves. Anthony's arm circled her waist. Silence settled, not oppressive, but soothing. Days layered into weeks. Snowstorms came and went, but inside Calum Peak, gardens thrived under glass and fires cracked cheerful hymns. Seraphina visited the medical wing often, sitting with recovering wolves who spoke in fragments about fear and hope. She told them pieces of her story, never the worst parts, but enough to prove survival. Sometimes she brought Cassandra, who taught breathing exercises. Other times Valen, who explained herbal compresses. Always Naira, whose steady confidence radiated through Seraphina's eyes. One evening, while Anthony drafted trade treaties, Seraphina wandered alone to the grand hall. Moonlight spilled through arched windows, painting silver rivers on marble. She walked barefoot, savoring cool stone. Halfway down the aisle, she stopped. Naira pressed forward. "Let us run," the wolf suggested, a grin in her mental voice. "Not inside," Seraphina answered, but laughter bubbled. "Tomorrow in the lower meadow," she whispered. A deep growl answered, Kayla stepping from a side doorway. Anthony followed, raising a brow. "Midnight stroll?" "Practicing speeches," she joked. He approached, slipping arms around her waist. She leaned into him, heart steady. "Do you ever feel too lucky?" she asked softly. "As if happiness is borrowed time?" He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Then we'll spend it wisely before the lender calls." Naira huffed fond agreement. Kalis nudged her side with gentle humor. A moon cycle later, Calum Peak hosted a gathering unlike any before. Omegas from 5 territories, healers, traders, even human scholars studying cross-species governance. Lanterns turned courtyards into galaxies of flickering stars. At the center dais, Anthony stood regal. Seraphina, in a gown of starlight gray embroidered with tiny quartz shards, glowed beside him, equal height thanks to sensible boots beneath skirts. When Anthony introduced her, applause washed over stone walls echoing into distant valleys. Seraphina stepped forward, heart drumming a confident rhythm learned through pain and perseverance. She saw faces. Cassandra beaming, Valen nodding, Isara serene, Captain Thalia looking proud and protective. In the rear, the young Omega girl from Council Week perched on a planter, eyes shining. Seraphina began, voice carrying without strain. "I was born into a world where silence kept me safe from beatings I could never truly escape. Silence became a coat I wore even in sunlight. Many here know its weight. But coats can be shed, and scars can become stories. I stand before you as proof that even the weakest voice can gather strength until it roars." She spoke of new accords, of healing houses already breaking ground, of trade monitored by transparency rather than fear. She thanked Isara for unearthing hidden bloodlines, Valen for healing without judgment, Cassandra for daring to hope, Anthony for loving with patience. She honored those who had yet to break silence, promising nothing would force them but time and choice. As she concluded, she glanced at Anthony, at their intertwined fingers, at wolves pacing just beyond sightlines. Her final words rose like sunrise over the crowd. "I was born to be silent. I choose to speak." A hush followed, deeper than any she'd ever known, not of oppression, but of collective breath held in wonder. Then a howl rose from the forest, one wolf, then dozens, then hundreds. Wolves of Calum Peak lifted muzzles skyward. Wolves of visiting packs echoed. Nira howled within Seraphina's chest, joy vibrating her bones. Without hesitation, Seraphina lifted her head and joined, voice threading with the chorus until distinction vanished. Wolf and woman singing one song under a silver moon. Kalis answered beside Nira, warm and fierce. Anthony's arm slipped around her waist as he tilted his own head back, adding his voice, kingly and wild. The night reverberated with promise, each note carrying into distant lands like sparks on winter wind, carrying seeds of change, carrying the sound of a broken mate who had remade herself into a queen. Snow melted early that year as though the land itself sensed change. A fortnight after the great gathering, Seraphina found herself on a grassy shelf above the palace with Anthony, Cassandra, Isara, and Valen. Wild crocuses speckled the slope, a waterfall stitched silver thread down the distant cliff, its roar softened by distance. Seraphina inhaled the scent of thawing earth. Nira padded within, eager. Tonight was the first full moon since the bond had sealed, and her wolf's excitement fizzed through every vein. Cassandra tightened the laces on her fur-lined boots. "I still can't believe you convinced me to hike in the dark." "You hiked border passes to bring witness letters," Seraphina reminded, grinning. "This is leisure." Valen unpacked a slim medical kit and a thermos of mulled cider. "Humor me. I like to be prepared." Isara stood apart, palms lifted to the indigo sky. "Moon climbs soon. Wolves, ready your hearts." Anthony brushed Seraphina's knuckles. "We don't have to shift. A quiet walk would satisfy me." "No," Nira answered for her, a playful growl surfacing in Seraphina's chest. She laughed. "I want to run. I've never shifted without fear. Tonight I choose it." Kalis rumbled approval, vibration echoing through Anthony's pulse. They moved to a clearing ringed by sentinel pines. Moonlight spilled over the ridge, bathing rock and grass in argent glow. Cold bit Seraphina's skin. Anticipation blazed hotter. Nira rose inside her like dawn. "Ready?" "Ready." She closed her eyes and let go. The shift flowed not with pain but relief, bones lengthening, muscles rippling, coat bursting in a shimmer of dark silver. She landed on all fours, balanced, powerful, taller than she'd imagined. Nira's vision layered with her own, pitch-perfect night clarity, ears swiveling to catch Valen's breath, Cassandra's hushed gasp. "Beautiful," Cassandra whispered. Anthony shifted beside her, Kalis unfurling into golden majesty. He lowered his head, nudging Nira's shoulder. Pride swelled between them. Isara's voice drifted like wind through pines. "Run, children of the moon. Let the world feel your joy." They ran. Down the slope, over slick moss and scattered rock, paws finding sure footing where boots would slip. Wind howled past their ears, mingling with their own exuberant barks. Snowmelt spray cooled fur. Stars blurred overhead. Nira matched Kayla stride for stride, muscles singing. For the first time, Seraphina felt the world without armor. No bruises, no cages, only the rhythmic thunder of her heart beside another's. At a broad ledge, they skidded to a halt. The valley stretched below, forests dark and unfathomable, river gleaming like poured mercury. Kalis chuffed, and Nira echoed, their breath pluming silver. Anthony shifted back first, offering a hand as Seraphina followed. She stood in the moonlight, clothes returned by the bond's magic, hair wild, cheeks flushed. He touched her cheek. "How does freedom taste?" Like running water in starlight, she said, voice thick with wonder. She looked down the slope. We should build trails so the children who come to the refuge can do this safely. Done, he said without hesitation. They walked back at leisurely pace. Cassandra awaited with Valen at a small fire. She passed Seraphina a mug of cider. Your eyes glow even off the shift, she teased. They're learning to stay open, Seraphina replied. Valen raised his mug. May they never dim again. Morning broke pale gold over breakfast in the conservatory. Seraphina drizzled honey on warm bread while Cassandra read dispatches. Riverfang elders voted to ratify the sanctuary accords. That's 4 packs now. Anthony sipped coffee. Raventhorn pledged timber and builders yesterday. The refuge breaks ground next week. Naira sent a contented flick of her tail. Progress. Later they visited the new hospital wing under renovation. Sun fell through tall windows onto crates of supplies and half-installed beds. Valen walked them through plans for a counseling suite, then showed Seraphina a small garden courtyard, where patients could sit with lavender and rosemary. I thought we'd name it Seraphina's Rest, he said. Her throat tightened. Call it Dawn Garden, she suggested, so no one forgets darkness is temporary. Anthony slid an arm around her shoulders, silent approval warming her skin. That night they honored one last promise. Anthony guided Seraphina to a circular room of polished stone, the Hall of Names, where guest books recorded victories, tragedies, and the fallen. She carried her mother's faded locket. In the center stood a pedestal and quill. Seraphina opened the book to a blank page. Hand steady, she wrote, Asterisk Mira of Ashwood. Beloved mother, healer, dreamer of brighter moons. May her daughter carry her song. Ink glistened midnight blue. She set the quill down and pressed the locket into a niche below the inscription. She would have liked it here, she whispered. She is here, Anthony said, laying a gentle hand on her back. In you. She turned, brushing tears aside. Thank you for making space for memories, not just futures. Both matter, he answered. Weeks passed. Spring threaded green into pine boughs. Construction on Dawn Garden finished, and laughter of recovering wolves drifted through palace corridors. Cassandra took charge of symposium planning, unstoppable with color charts and seating maps. Valen trained new medics. Isara traveled to distant packs, sharing rites of healing. One quiet evening, Seraphina and Anthony strolled the outer ramparts just after sunset. Lanterns lined parapets, pools of amber against violet sky. Below, the valley shimmered with early fireflies. I never asked, he said, thumb stroking her knuckles. But what will you call yourself now? Luna? Queen? Either. Both? Or neither? She considered, watching Naira chase a phantom moth in her mind's eye. Titles matter to others more than to me. But if I must choose, let them call me Voice. A voice for wolves who still whisper. Anthony smiled. Then I will stand beside the voice and ensure it carries far. She leaned into him, joy glowing warm as sunset embers. We still have work ahead. And time, he promised. Naira curled close, content. Kalis rumbled affirmation, tail swishing. The wind shifted, bringing distant echoes of children's laughter from the hospital courtyard, the clang of builders raising beams for the refuge, the muted howls of wild wolves greeting night. Seraphina lifted her face to the breeze, breathing in the symphony of new beginnings. Each sound threaded through her like golden wire, holding her whole. She spoke, soft but unwavering. Sky is wide enough at last. Anthony's arm tightened. And it's ours to share. Far below, lanterns glittered like new stars scattered just for them. Wolves sang dusk into darkness, their chorus rich with promise. With Naira's spirit twining through her heartbeat, Seraphina joined the song, her voice carrying over stone and water, over forests and villages, a steady, fearless note that would never again be lost to silence.